Hi, and welcome to the Voices of Persevere. I'm Jake, your host, and these are the stories behind the statistics, the people who prove that transformation isn't just possible, but that it's happening right now. And today I'm excited to share our time with Indigo Collier. Indigo, how are you?
I am well. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, absolutely. So, really excited to have you. We obviously know each other. We work every day together. We are on a couple of teams at Banyan Labs. And so I was just really excited to be able to share today with you and to give you the opportunity to share your story. So, thanks again so much for being here.
Absolutely.
So before we get started, talking about the tech stuff and the Persevere curriculum, just tell us a little bit about yourself. Who is Indigo Collier? What does she do day to day? Maybe a fun fact about you. But yeah, just introduce yourself to our audience.
So I'm Indigo and I am from Memphis, Tennessee. I grew up here and I also spent about nearly a decade in Wisconsin. I have
Wow.
a background in web and digital media design and I also love to sing, have created music. It's just like my muse. I'm also a mom of two. And a fun fact about me, it's a good question. I guess I have a lot of siblings. I don't know how fun that is. It's 10 extended siblings. Yes, it's a lot.
Wow. Wow. That's
Including
a
like,
big family.
yeah, it's a lot.
So where do you fall in the 10?
You know what? I'm at the top, the oldest. Like, well, I'm number two technically. So it's my big
Okay.
brother and then it's me.
Awesome, awesome. Well, that's so cool. Well, um, it's so impressive that you are a full-time mom and then a full-time lifelong learner and also a full-time developer. So, my goodness. Well, thanks again so much for being with us. Where I'd like to start, Indigo, is just tell us a little bit about what life was like before Persevere, and then we'll kind of segue there on the journey. But just walk us back before you ever heard the term persevere in this context. What was life like for you?
Yeah, so I was my children at the time were one, and I was kind of in a crossroads space in life. I was doing insurance, and I loved it, but I knew that that wasn't like my final calling. So I, always had my eye open to what I wanted to do. And then if you backtrack back in 2021, I took web and digital media design. I was in love with it. So I
Awesome.
always had this desire to express myself creatively and also, have strategic thinking and logic with it, whatever I did. But I didn't know how I would apply that. Just in a space of where do I go from here and how do I also find a way and create a way to take care of my kids.
You were at a crossroads, you didn't want to do insurance, and so tell us a little bit about what you were doing before you heard persevere.
I was working at U-Haul, so I was in customer service and I loved it. I'm a very giving, nurturing person by heart. So to be able to assist someone in the process of a very difficult time in their lives, like moving, whatever the circumstances may be, I enjoyed that. Was it my final stop in the road? No, but it definitely was something that I could find joy in the process.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Awesome. And just from what I've known about you, Indigo, you are very personable. You are a very servant-hearted and servant-minded individual. I love that about you. You're a joy to work with, and I can see how you being in a customer service position would just feel really natural and feel really organic. So, yeah, absolutely. When did you first hear the term persevere as it relates to the institution?
So that was back in 2024. And my auntie actually, she texted me one day and say, hey, there's this program that you should try to apply for. It's in tech. And I know that you mentioned that you had a tech background. It's called Persevere. And just apply and see what happens. So I ended up going to the website, looking through Perseverance and their mission. And then I attended the informational meeting and then I had my mindset.
I love it. I love it. You mentioned a moment ago that you already had a background in web design. So when you joined the Persevere program, obviously one of the first things we have to do is choose our pathway. What pathway did you choose?
So I chose full stack, but what I ended up starting with was front end, and that's what I got my certification in.
Awesome. Awesome. And we've had conversations like this at work, even with Megan, right? You
Mm.
guys are very UI, UX oriented. And me, I come from a data engineering background. So I speak all of the things,
Mhm.
Python, Golang, but when it comes to designing stuff, right, I'm just the stuff that I create looks horrible, and then I see the things that you guys create, and I'm like, "I wish I could do that." Talk to me about being in the Persevere curriculum. What were some of the things you were learning? Who were your instructors? Just tell us a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, so for the first 2 months, I had, my initial instructor, her name was Miss Taylor. It was asynchronous, and so we were learning through Coursera, and then eventually I joined Mr. Doty's class, back in February of 2025, and we started off with the basics. We went through HTML, CSS, and then we jumped to the harder stuff, JavaScript, and then from there it was React, and also along the way, just learning how to think like a developer and structure your project. So GitHub, things like that. Although it was, our introductions to all of these different things, it was definitely challenging to me because you do have to reframe the way you think to be able to code. So learning soft skills as well along the way.
Yeah, for sure. So I ask everybody this because I'm interested. When you began the journey, did coding come naturally to you, or did you find it to be a challenge? A lot of people are, opposite ends of the spectrum. Either
Mhm.
they reached a point where it finally started making sense because it didn't make sense to them, or it just felt really smooth the entire time. Which of those experiences more aligns with how you learned?
I'm not gonna lie, it was challenging just because I did have to learn to think more logically and have more of a critical thinking mindset with code. But I always had a natural inclination of loving it,
Yeah.
loving the challenge of it. So even if I did come across something I didn't understand, or if I was struggling on a part in JavaScript, I enjoyed it and I enjoyed figuring it out and solving it. Wasn't as natural, maybe, but I felt like it was something I was going to be doing. Like I was going to enjoy doing
Yeah.
it for a long time.
Awesome, awesome. What was for you specifically, what was the hardest part of the program?
Ooh, it was, I would say around capstone time because
Okay.
from that point we were getting ready to present our own web application. And from there, the wave of debugging came and I
Yeah.
was brand spanking new to it. So just dev tools was foreign to me and it was scary and just figuring out how do I look at this website without redeploying it 1,000 times. Oh, just go to your dev tools and change the dimensions. So just little stuff like that made it challenging. But once I figured it out, it became so much clearer to me. And I felt more capable to go through a whole web application, creating one again.
Yeah,
Capstone time.
for sure. When we visited yesterday, you spoke a little bit about the struggles with asynchronous learning. And
Hmm.
personally, that's really difficult for me. I like to be in a classroom in real time, either virtually or in person, but in the moment with other people learning. Talk to us a little bit about that asynchronous format and whether you liked it, disliked it. Just talk to us a little bit about that.
So during the asynchronous class, honestly, I did struggle just because it was on Coursera and all of these new concepts that we were learning, I could not connect it in my brain. Like my brain could not understand the material enough for me to feel confident to go and make myself a web application. Indices and different functions. It was all just kind of in limbo for me. So I needed that one-on-one, that real person across from me to explain
Yeah.
these things. I am a person who likes to ask a lot of questions. So I can't ask Coursera a lot of questions and get the answer in the way I need it. So it was very important to get that assistance from a real person to be able to make those concepts clear for me, to be able to make sure that I was actually retaining the information like I was supposed to.
How did you manage being a single parent of twins and also going through a rigorous tech program at the same time?
It came down to strategy, strategy, strategy. I had to think about the different aspects of my life as puzzle pieces. So I have to have time for the kids. I have to have time to make a living for them, and I have to have time to feed my future, my education. So how do I fit those puzzle pieces together in one day? Okay, I'm going to make sure that I work a job that I can cut off at a certain time and be able to go to class. Then I'm going to make sure that whenever that class ends, I'll be able to dedicate the rest of my day to my children. So it was just a matter of thinking about those aspects in a way that they could fit together and work. And then it
Yeah.
did.
Awesome. Awesome. So now that you've graduated, you actually work at Banyan Labs and love that you're there. So excited to see all of the great things that you're doing. So, talk to us a little bit about that. What does your day to day look like as a junior developer at the lab?
So it looks like daily stand-ups. It looks like afternoon stand-ups. It looks like a lot of meetings, a lot of collaborations with my colleagues. It looks like QC, QA testing for Banyan's products. It looks like me developing my own products and submitting my tickets with pull requests and getting them merged and going on to the next ticket. It just looks like a lot of productive work that I enjoy.
Okay, I'm so glad to hear you say that you're enjoying it. From personal experience, right? Banyan is a very fast paced environment. We're building a lot of things and we're building them fast. What are some of the projects that you're currently working on?
So I'm working on High Five. It is going to be a web application that is going to assist in taking those different leads that we get on LinkedIn, Meta, and YouTube and be able to keep track of those analytics so that we can be able to hop on those and get in touch with future, clients or anyone who's interested in Banyan in our mission. Just being able to keep a tab on those more efficiently and help our marketing team out.
Awesome, awesome. As someone who's on the marketing team, I'm super excited about the product, right? Because it's going to help us do our jobs a lot better and easier. When you first got to Banyan and you got here this January, what were some of your thoughts? And I know for me and for a lot of people, right, imposter syndrome is a thing. I don't know if that's something you went through, but just talk to me a little bit about, that initial joining of the lab team.
So yes, imposter syndrome. I was scared. I was nervous, but with everything that I do in life, I just step out on faith. I pray about it and I just believe in my God and myself. And that
I love
usually
that.
does the trick every time. I just, despite my nerves, I showed up and I kept
Yeah.
my mind open, my ears open, my eyes open, and just came into this as a sponge. So even though things have been and are challenging, as long as I have that mindset, it has worked out well for me. I was definitely nervous though when I first started.
Yeah, yeah. Was there ever a moment because I mean, now, right, we see each other multiple times a day. You're in there with the work, you offer your perspectives and your opinions. You even say sometimes, "All right, hold up, guys, let's think about this. Let's make sure that we're doing this the right way." Was there ever a moment when you finally came to the realization where you said, "Yes, I belong here"?
What was that moment? Well, it was in between QC testing and the marketing project because those two things were completely new to me. And the fact that I was able to get through both of those and actually enjoy both of those and see that, I can be versatile. So I can,
Yeah.
be in different spaces and do well. Felt like I was more capable. Just those new skills that I adopted along the way definitely made me feel like, yeah, this is it. I can do this.
I love that. And for the marketing project, you were actually a team lead for that, weren't you?
I was. Team
Talk to us a little bit about what it was like not only being in a new space, but leading a team of developers.
It was challenging, but I knew that if I thought about leading the team like I would lead myself or if I would lead my children, having patience, being able to
Yeah.
listen, being able to take constructive criticism. I just think as a leader, you should be able to follow as well and be able to say, I don't know that. You may know that more than me, so teach me so that I can lead us better. And then just learning a little bit more about digital marketing with watching my videos, getting new concepts, refreshing what I had learned back in 2021, and just being able to work with some amazing individuals along the way and seeing their strengths. It was really cool. So
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I loved the work that you guys did. I thought you presented very well, and you guys did some amazing things in that sprint. I was just really impressed. One of the things that I wonder about, because you are such a very outgoing person and you seem like the kind of individual who enjoys interaction. I think that's why customer service suited you so well. I also think that's why you're such a good leader. In this role, we work primarily virtually, right?
mhm.
You see each other on camera, but for many of our colleagues, we've never met them face to face. Talk to me a little bit about maybe either the challenges or just the shift from working with colleagues who are right beside you to working primarily from a remote environment.
I would say being able to manage myself and making sure that I did
Yeah.
that well because it does fall on you. Showing up on time, that falls on you. It's not you going to clock in at a building, it's, opening your laptop and So that could be a struggle for someone, especially on those difficult days, those days where
Yeah,
you're going
yeah.
through it. So to be able to just make sure that I manage myself was really the biggest shift in, working virtually. But once I got that down, it made everything else way more seamless.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. What would you say has been the hardest technical challenge that you've tackled so far?
So off the top of my head, Docker. So it's just, remembering to restart your Docker. Are we talking technical here? Just fitting with the project and being able to know how important it is to keep restarting your container and rebuilding it so that, you can see the project in real time and all of the changes that you are making. And that if you don't, you might see a cached version that isn't accurate. So that was kind of a little tricky for me to get a grasp of, but I'm getting better at it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And containerization, like you said, is so important that we do that early on so that we're protecting that environment, but it can be finicky at times for
Mhm.
sure. I want to talk a little bit about architectural design because that's something that you and I have been doing along with Megan and Adam, and it's just been really great. You know this about me. I do believe, just from my own mentorship, that being able to understand how the pieces fit is so integral to building complex systems, right? You can understand all of the languages in the world, but if you don't understand the architectural design, then those languages won't benefit you, right? We have to
Right.
understand how the pieces fit together. And you've been a part of that journey for the last little bit. Can you just walk us through maybe some of the ahas of that, or how you've seen that fit into maybe in your work with high?
Absolutely. I'm a person who likes to connect things to different scenarios, so analogies. So
Yeah,
me picturing, the architecture of a web application as a kitchen or like a restaurant has made it
yeah,
way more, it makes way more sense to me that way. No, it starts at the client, the family eating, then it starts next is the server taking down those
yeah,
orders, it's the routes. Then we need to go take it to the main chef so that they can delegate the different tasks. Okay, we're talking workers
yeah.
now. So just those different steps it made way more sense to me that way. So I'm going to apply that to any new concept that I learned, but analogies for sure.
I love that. I love that. And I don't I didn't come from a software engineering background. Mine was data analytics. And so when I first started my engineering mentorship, I had to learn about design. And I've heard so many other people talk about their coding experience, how they first learned how to code, right? And then they learned their languages. And then it wasn't until later, or sometimes not even at all, where they spent some time really architecting. And
Mhm.
I think that that's so valuable. In fact, one of the things that we've been doing is we've been architecting without large language models, right? We have a scenario and we pull up draw IO and then we architect those and show the different pieces and the data flows. And so I think that that's just so valuable. I think it makes us better engineers when we understand that. And you specifically have done an amazing job of grasping onto those concepts and applying those concepts in your other work. And I've just been so proud of the work that you're doing. Indigo, in this space, in the tech space, and I don't think that this is something that's not known. Maybe it is for people who are outside of the space, but there are just not a lot of women in technology. It's not especially women of color. So, what would you say to a young woman who is thinking about joining this space, understanding that they're a minority in it? What advice would you give her?
One of my favorite quotes that I have is if you can imagine it, it can become your reality. I would
Love
say
that.
that to her. We can't help what we look like. We can't help how we were brought into this world, but we can help how we show up. And if you
Yes.
can believe in yourself and if you can believe in God and walk in faith, you will get very far in life. Don't let what you look like hold you back. Stay strong and you know that you're capable. And if you can believe enough in that, the stars are the limit as far as
I
I'm
love that.
concerned.
I love that. That's awesome. So I want to shift gears just a little bit. And I'm thinking specifically about our Persevere students, like people who are just now getting into their pathway through the Persevere program. What advice would you give them? And I guess you could think about it this way. If you could go back to when Indigo first joined Persevere, what advice would you give her?
I would say you are going to have moments where you're going to be scratching your head, but
Yeah,
trust the process. Show up to class every day, keep your mind open, stay a sponge. And as long as you keep showing up and give it your 100% every day, things will start to make sense. And before you
yeah.
know it, you'll be holding your certificate and you can just be proud of yourself. Just keep the course, stay the course. That's what I would
I
say.
love that. I love that. So let's talk a little bit about the future then as we kind of wrap up. What does the future look like for Indigo? What are her plans in this space? What are some of your goals as you move forward in this profession?
My plan is to stay with Banyan and to continue being a voice that shows, hey, this is what happens when you give second chances. I may not have a second chance in the same sense as maybe someone who just is impacted or involved, but I did have a second chance at life to be able to provide a beautiful future for my children, to be able to do something that I love, and to be able to just contribute to a cause that means so much to me because I am, in fact, just as impacted as well. So being able to just stay with Banyan and see the amazing things we come up with. So
I
yeah.
love that. Yeah, awesome. Well, Indigo, thank you so much, truly, for being with me today, for sharing your story. And it is Fair Chance Month, so we're always excited about the opportunity to spend some time thinking about that, right? And so you just mentioned how important it is for people to receive those fair chances in the professional space. For those of you who are watching, if you heard things today about Indigo's story that moved you, if you're interested in learning more, please visit us at perseverenow.org. That's P-E-R-E-S-E-V. No, it's PERSEVERENOW.org. Indigo, thank you so much for being with me today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Bye bye.